Employment and Labour Minister Nomakhosazana Meth says unemployment and rising costs of living remain a priority for the government of national unity. The minister is one of the delegates at the National Economic Development and Labour Council's summit focusing on labour policy. Joining us now to discuss some of the issues that are supposed to be discussed there is Isobel Frye, who is the Social Policy Initiative Executive Director. Isobel, a very good afternoon to you. Thanks very much for your time. Certainly from what the minister has been saying, that session taking place at Nedlac is happening at about the same time that the government is finalizing the medium-term development plan to address the unemployment crisis in our country.
Absolutely. Thanks, Frye, for the invitation. And I was at the summit this morning, and indeed, Nedlac has given a really good platform over the years, 30 years actually was celebrated today, of where policy can be hammered out. The benefit of Nedlac is that it has representatives from organised labour, business, as well as government and community constituency or civil society. And so you're able to deal with apex organisations that bring to fore the different positions and different concerns of each constituency. Employment or unemployment, as you say, really is the critical matter facing this new government of national unity. And with the second quarter's figures coming out 2 weeks ago showing that unemployment had expanded to 42.6%, it really is a national crisis.
Well, these apex organizations, as you call them, interestingly, haven't delivered on that promise that was made to the rest of us over 2 years ago of a social compact.
Indeed, Frye, and that was something that the overall conveners of the apex organizations were talking about. Stepping aside from being a member of community constituency and putting my hat on as head of social policy initiative, we've always had a concern about the question of social compacting in a country with such glaring inequality. I mean, if you just look, for instance, at unemployment, we see in the recent figures that unemployment amongst Black Africans was 46%, amongst whites was 9.7%, and the attendant income differential that employment and unemployment brings is one thing. Questions of land, access to assets. We would hope that Nedlac going forward is able to identify the question of really bringing forward how jobs are created and the income differential is reduced in order to lay a foundation for true social compacting. I think that often we skirt around the elephant in the room, which is historic inequality, as well as new drivers of poverty that come in. And that's something which Nedlac is very well placed to address. And we know that the Government of National Unity addressed its plans to have national dialogue. It does seem, again, that if that national dialogue were to be introduced into Nedlac, that these are the things that can be ironed out there. But unemployment is, we've got the second highest unemployment in the world. And what we need to see is recognizing that unemployment is not fixed through public works. Public works are meant globally to absorb people in terms of crisis. We need business, organized business, to come to the table and say, these are how many decent jobs we are creating. We need to be looking at creating 12.3 million jobs. That's a huge amount. Where those come from and the kinds of conditions that are attached to it need to be, that needs to be solved for in the coming months, because the other survey that I was looking at recently, Frye, which I think is really important, is a survey of youth in South Africa. 95% of youth in South Africa are concerned about not getting a job. And we know that the youth are meant to be bridled with enthusiasm and optimism. If they are concerned, we're losing that innovation, that potential, and that kind of spark that comes into new generations.
But Isobel, I mean, weren't conversations around the social compact meant precisely to deal or iron out the very same concerns that you are raising? Because as far as I understood it, but then again, I'm an ordinary commonplace journalist here. I don't know much about the issues you're discussing there. But we were told or made to understand that this was where each of the respective constituencies were to get into the detail of what it was that each and every one of them would have to sacrifice, you know, in order for conversations about unemployment, you know, economic growth are concerned.
You're a journalist with a lot of common sense, because that is a very fair description of the task that were given to each of the constituencies. Without opening too much of what went on behind closed doors, I think one of the challenges is that the constituencies are still very far apart. Community constituency represents millions of people who have no access to jobs, to bread on a daily basis. A past convener was talking today about how, while load shedding is being celebrated as being a thing of the past, she continues to have load reduction. For her, there is no celebration. So you have extremely different positions that are coming in to negotiate. And I think that one of the challenges of Nedlac in the past is moving beyond entrenched positions in order to find that common position, as you said, the compromise position, which is at the heart of any true social compacting. And that is something which still has to be done.
Of course, I mean, we were also told, I mean, Lisa, earlier or a day or two ago spoke about celebrating 30 years of Nedlac, just how celebratory was the mood today, given, of course, the enormous challenges facing the country today.
Yeah, Lisa Sefton gave a comprehensive overview. I think that one can do both. I think that one can recognize the successes that have been achieved in the past, starting with the historic 1995 Labour Relations Act, the monitoring team during the COVID lockdown. I was part of that. We had 2 to 3 hour meetings every day just looking at coordinating that and acknowledging that the challenges that are ahead of us continue to be vast. Personally, I think that if we're able to take off some of our kid gloves and actually knuckle down to saying what the priorities are in a way that brings in the interests of everybody beyond the confines of Nedlac, that would be important. But the ways in which people are represented does, to an extent, also filter the priorities. Job creation, comprehensive social security, those are critical for the daily bread and butter. We need to look at infrastructure development. We need to look at energy, absolutely. But we also need to do this in a way that's reflective of the Constitution of South Africa. And even under the Government of National Unity, which represents quite diverse ideologies, it's my hope, having spent many years of my life in Nedlac, that there is an ability to come in and to actually get down to brass tactics, in addition to more of the sort of protocol that has to be observed.
Any conversations around the importance of delivering on promises made, but also setting timelines, you know, for some of the things that get promised? And I'm saying this again on the back of, you know, the social compact not having been delivered on, and what that has done, how that has dampened the mood, and how that is, you know, I mean, when you hear people talking about promises, the promise made, I mean, the president has been making, and how dejected they can be. A few years down the line, those promises have not been fulfilled. Deadlines have not been met or even set in certain instances.
Well, yeah, I hear you. I'm not able to speak with complete authority on this because I'm not part of the EXCO deliberations. I am aware that the Secretariat of Nedlac over the last couple of years have introduced a far greater streamlining that monitors and evaluates the delivery of promises. I think that that really would be a conversation to be held with Lisa, as I'm not privy to the progress that has been made on that. I know to an extent that the idea of a single social compact was broken down into more sectoral aligned compacts? I think that it's a really critical question that you ask, because however nicely you put it, I hear what you're saying, which is that the national confidence in a leadership that appears not to be delivering and yet asks for further trust is something which is crucial as we go forward.